Welcome back, you guys. We're in week 3 of a special edition of the Beyond Sundays podcast, where we bring you stories of God's faithfulness from people just like you, because the God who did still does. If you didn't catch episode 1 or 2, I encourage you to go back and take a look. In episode 1, the conversation lays a solid foundation for the relationships within the family of God. In episode 2, we take the conversation regarding spiritual fathering and sonship a level deeper and explore some of the practicalities of what it actually looks like. Today, Zach Vassar, our host and men's ministry pastor here at Beltway Park Church, sits down with a few guys to talk about how they found forgiveness, freedom, hope, and redemption in Jesus after they came to the end of themselves. If you want out of the trenches of sin and darkness, having the right huddle around you to help you out of that trench makes a big difference. We hope that by the end of this conversation today, you'll discover this truth. You are not alone, nor are you meant to do this life and live this life alone either. So let's get to it.
Well, here we are in the middle of this series talking about fatherhood and spiritual fathering. You guys have been with us for a little bit of this, and man, I'm excited to have some great friends of mine here and another father in the house in our men's ministry. My name's Zach Vassar. I'm the Beltway Park men's group's pastor, and these are just, I look at these guys, these are brothers of mine. We're actually in a life group together. We've done a lot of life together. I'm going to let these guys just introduce themselves, tell a little bit about themselves, and we'll just unpack our story. Man, I'm really excited that you're here, Coach. Your name has already been used through some of these, you can imagine, but when I think of Coach, this is Quinn Conley. I'll let him tell you more about himself, but he's an extreme encourager. And I don't know how you do this, because I know encouragers, they pour out a lot and they need to be encouraged too. So I hope that this encourages you.
Amen.
But you do, and everywhere you go, you're always asking about how people's families, how their heart, how's your soul, it's always about other people. It's never about you. And so I'm thankful to know you and appreciate you. So. Yeah. We're talking in relationship with the kingdom. I know we have fathers and sons, but then we also have brothers. So I think we're going to really just talk a little bit more about that today. I knew both these guys in some kind of ways, but I met them both at a boot camp. Yep. And when you talk about that a little bit more in detail, boot camp's an annual retreat that we do, and it's where we take guys to the deep part of who they are. And man, God usually meets them and changes them, and it's incredible what we've seen happen. So I'll let these guys just jump in. Whoever wants to go, tell a bit about yourself. A couple minutes.
I'll start. I'm Byron Stephenson. I'm married to Stacy. We've been married for 24 years. We've got 2 kids, Taylor and Brock. Mm-hmm. Taylor's 23 and Brock is 19.
Empty nesters.
Just about in a month.
Here it is.
So here we go.
Yeah.
So we started very early, and we're going to finish
done early.
Mid-40s. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Okay.
I'm Colby Freeman. My wife is Courtney Freeman. On Thursday, we'll celebrate 21 years of marriage, and
wow,
hallelujah to that. We have 4 girls. Avery is our oldest. She's graduated, and Gracie just graduated. She's about to go to Oklahoma State. And I have Kennedy. We call her KK. KK is going to be a sophomore, and Jersey is going to be a 7th grader this year. So,
yeah,
exciting. All girls.
All girls.
I'm outnumbered all the time, and I've just learned to say yes. So
yeah,
that gets me
and,
through
and
life
if you
pretty
saw
well.
them, you'd know who their dad was, because they're all full redheaded.
That is
and
right.
I actually met Colby's mom for the first time yesterday, and they're identical twins. And it was it might have been 2 days ago. It's been a long weekend.
It has been.
Coach?
Yes, my name's Quinn Conley. I'll be married 50 years this year.
Woo.
Oh, man.
That's a long time.
Well, Joe Don said he was 48 years, I think.
Yeah, and I tell you,
you got him beat.
I'm very surprised. Colby here is giving ages of his kids, and that's not going to happen. I do know I got 3 girls, and I've got 11 grandkids, and so I will say that 2 of my grandsons work for Byron, and I've got a son-in-law that happens to be Colby's brother.
That's right.
Yeah.
And anyway, I was coaching for a long time. I've done a lot of different things, and the Lord's just pushed me around in the last part of my life, or maybe He's pulled me, I would say, in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful. You said Joe Don. Joe Don and I talk about all the time about how thankful we are. We don't have to do anything. We get to do it now, and we're thankful we can. and
Yeah.
it's been a blessing, that part. Anyway, and so I've got 11 grandkids, so I say I've got a football team now.
That's right.
Well, we're glad that you're doing this with us and that you lead by example. And out of who you are, you've always modeled sonship to us as good as anybody. And I think all of us have come to you at some point in time with something. And you always just point us back to the Father, and that's what a real dad does, and so we appreciate it. But let's dive into a little bit of y'all's story. So sometimes we got guys that come to Jesus in different ways. I can speak for myself. I would say there's a I call it a ditch or the trenches. We've used that word here, but when you get to just really the end of yourself, the marriage is completely fallen out. There's sin in its secrecy. You've done something that you're not proud of morally. There's alcohol. You could list all the things, and I fall into that category. So I found Jesus in a place of deep, dark desperation, and I think these guys would attest to a lot of the same things. I don't want to just label them with those, but this is kind of the environment that you have right here. So just go back to that time. Yours was, you said 6 years ago, 3-ish, 2.5 years ago, when you hit the I'm done with me.
I remember that pretty well. That was October of 2016 in Tomazo, Haiti, and I had agreed to go on a construction mission trip down there. A lot of people have heard this, but and God got me. And when I came home from that mission trip, I changed everything I was doing. The Lord got a hold of me. I started, putting him first and putting Stacy second and my kids next, and it just changed everything about my entire life.
Awesome. Who would you say in that season when you came back from Haiti, who was one or two men that you looked to for? Probably it was, who knows what you didn't even know what you were looking for. Throw me a life jacket, throw me a vest. Who was it?
Randy Reese for sure. My buddy Caleb Enser. He was there on the trip with me. So he walked through a lot of that stuff with Stacy and I, as did Randy. So
awesome. And I know Caleb will be tuning into this at some point. He's on the other side of the world right now. Who knows where he's at? It's probably a different time zone, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think Byron as well. It's just so neat to see what you and Stacy have done in your business.
Yeah.
To continue, just from a community standpoint, y'all have become a haven for people to feel comfort, and you've shown how a place of business can bring glory to the kingdom in so many ways. And it's amazing how many times you open the doors to allow people to experience that.
I mean, you just came from there.
Yeah.
You were literally just not just having lunch, but
Coach's grandson served me. and you
were meeting with a group of guys.
A group of guys from boot camp, and
a year ago.
Yeah. And so it's just it's a gathering place, and I'm so grateful. I remember when you and Stacy made the decision to move locations. I know that was a huge move, and that has been such a blessing for the whole community. And the way that you exemplified building business with a kingdom-minded principle is just incredible, because it's a safe place for people to go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, which is really cool, because you just finished out the completion of taking over a business.
I did.
And I'm certain that you don't want that business to own you.
I don't.
You'd probably rather own it.
Yes.
And you'd probably rather have those values in the forefront, because you've tried the other ways.
My dad, just like Coach alluded to earlier, my dad was a coach, and I came from a very performance-based background. I was an athlete under him, and I did not realize at the time how much that had spilled over into my life. So you alluded to 2 years ago when I really hit rock bottom. It was because for 20 years I wanted to be so performance-based that I was just had it drilled in my mind that really you get whatever you go after, and you can't ever give up. You've got to push through everything.
Yeah.
And my story, basically, where I landed in my destruction was at boot camp. Byron, he doesn't brag about this. Byron paid for me to go to boot camp. He tricked me into thinking I needed to turn my application in really quickly, or I may not be accepted. Courtney
Whatever
and I,
it takes.
Yeah, Courtney and I were separated at the time, and and just, man, destruction was all over me and my family. We were separated, and I was just absolutely at my lowest point, and it was the first time that I realized that I could not do this on my own.
Yeah.
And what I learned through that process is that my weakness is where God shows his strengths.
Yeah.
Everywhere that I failed, God stepped in ways that I never would have had the strength to do so. And you spoke about men, Zach. You were huge in that for me. Byron got me there. Coach, honestly, as a family member, I would run away from Coach because I was running away from God, and looking at Coach was like looking in the eyes of Jesus.
No.
And I was scared to death from some of my church background. I did not feel like there was any way that the Lord was really going to accept me and do the things that he needed to do in my life. Mm-hmm. And I'm just so thankful. Randy Reese stepped in. I told my whole story to him, and Ray Templeton was a huge piece of that before Ray passed away. And actually at one point in my conversation with Randy, I said, so Randy, I guess the reason I'm here is because Ray was trying to get my attention. And so he's the reason I'm here. And Randy said, well, that's the reason I'm sitting in this chair as well. So really cool to look back and see just all of the men. I mean, I have an army of men that surrounded me and loved on me in ways they didn't even know who I was, did not care, just loved on me, and have continued to go through that process over the course of the last 2 years. So I'm eternally grateful for that.
Well, I wonder what you're thinking, Coach, because I know you're somebody that spends a lot of time praying for guys, checking on guys, encouraging guys. You've watched this. But you've been a part of this. Your family's a part of this.
Yes.
We're talking kingdom. We're talking family. What does that do inside of your heart, seeing these guys?
You know, I look back, and of course I've been involved with the men's ministry since it started here. And it's so neat to watch a lot of these people, like Byron or like Colby and a lot of others, that were completely broken.
Yeah.
Lives were completely a mess. No way they could repair it. I mean, they would, if you ask them, can you get this fixed? There's no way it's going to happen. And then watch to where they progress to where they're not only just serving the Lord, they're really going way beyond the call. And their whole life has changed to a point that now they're the difference makers for others. Mm-hmm. And it's so neat to watch, and the giftings that they have, and where they didn't think they had anything. Yeah. And how the Lord has used them in so many ways. Mm-hmm. And it's just a great blessing. That's why you do it.
Yeah.
I will say that, you know, anybody, and I'm not just saying this for Beltway, but there's places that the Lord anoints certain ministries, certain people, certain situations for kingdom purposes. And it's not everywhere. I don't always understand why he does certain things, but the anointing of men's ministry, the anointing that's on this church, is very evident.
Yeah.
I try to say, you know, just, Lord, just help me not get in the way.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to make him nervous. I don't want to, you know, grieve him in some way, because it's really just all about him. Mm-hmm. And it's so amazing to watch what he's doing. And I'm thankful to be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, we're glad that you're a part of it. Like we said earlier, I'm just thinking about two guys who have hit the, you know, and I've kind of fallen into this category, heroes as of late. But you've hit this place, in a place where people know you. You've grown up here. You grew up in Brownwood, but you've been here for a long time. You've been, you know, the ACU, the Abilene, the big country. Dad coached here, there, that, and that. You know, these little, you know, these ponds are real small. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we see when guys come back, say from a boot camp, and they make drastic change, or Haiti, and I know boot camp was a part of your journey. That's where we met. There's so much disconnect with our spouse that we've got to get even back to ground level. We've got to do whatever it takes to become, you know, this, to battle this. Well, I'm going to have, you know, I know you're saying all this and this is great for you, but, you know, I'm battered. And my wife's, I've been in that situation. You've put yours in that situation. So here you are on the other side of that. So year 6 was great. Here's the net. But like as you're climbing through that, like just talk a little bit about that with Stacy and I'm close with Stacy, and I know you see where I'm going with that. You know, hey, what does it look like to navigate that? How important is it to have guys in your life to refuge? You mentioned Caleb and some of these other things, you know, to get through.
Oh gosh. If these guys weren't in my life, there's no way I could have done it because, you know, I had some old buddies back in the day that were completely, you know, it was not a good situation. I had to get rid of rid myself of some of those friendships and some of the things that I was doing before I could really focus on the Lord. And by doing that and getting a new group of guys that were like-minded, on the same track as me, and wanting, you know, the best for their families, and wanted to be a Christian man. And if I hadn't had those guys, there's no way I could have done it. So, you know, when we came back from Haiti, we're doing this little campfire night on Wednesday nights. And
I remember this.
This turned into, there'd be 90 or 100 guys show up
every
to
Wednesday night.
Every Wednesday night. And, you know, it was incredible. And just walking with those guys and reading so many books and just, you know, things that I would never have done before, pre-2016, you know, I was doing that. And I had the right people surrounding me. And that was a huge key.
So good. Getting out of the wrong huddle and getting into the right huddle. What's great is, you know, you alluded to this, that Byron opens his place. Every Wednesday morning, we have a group of guys that come in. We'll be there tomorrow morning, and we have some fellowship, some words, some time, and we're creating an atmosphere for guys to be able to find this, because it's not just easy to walk out the door and find it. I mean, you got to seek. This has kind of been the thing we've talked about, you know, this whole series is seek first the kingdom of God. Well, what's the kingdom? We're talking about family, the rule and reign of Jesus, getting around other like-minded believers, and going down these journeys together, you know. And so that requires us there's some effort in this. Yeah. And so it's not to put the glory, like, hey, look what I did. It's look what God's used these other people to do in my life. But you had to take a step.
Yep.
And then there's some guys that just won't take the step.
I might interject too. I could tell by the way Byron was talking that you start realizing these guys that come into your life, rotate in, rotate out. The gift of discernment, I think, is so important.
Yeah.
Okay, Lord, why is this? Why are we connected? Why is he here? Why are we talking? Why is he acting like this? Whether it's one of your close friends, you know, or whether it's just somebody different.
Yeah.
And you start watching for them.
Yeah.
And start letting the Spirit kind of say, you know, I think there's something here. I'll just find out about what's going on with this person.
Yeah.
And I can tell that that's the way you're using your business, and I hope that's the way you use your business. Okay, why are these people here?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen by just accident. A lot of times we think, well, it's just by accident.
Coincidence.
Coincidence.
Yeah, all this stuff. Yeah.
You know, you're just talking about those Wednesday night meetings, why they're showing up, why they're there, who you connect with, why are we connecting? Yeah. And it might be for a season.
Right.
Or it might be for a long season.
Yeah, it could be for life.
But I think it's so important to pay attention.
Yeah.
After you get into where you are. Now, first you're just trying to get to where you can get your head above water. Yeah. You know, and you're just trying to get on the right track.
Yeah.
But then when you get there, you're trying, okay, now what can I do?
Yeah.
How can I be a difference maker? Can I watch to see what's really happening in the world around me? Yeah. Whether it's with your kids, your wife, your in-laws, your outlaws, or whatever you want to call them, you know, or, you know, just anybody you come in contact with.
Yeah.
And I see that in these guys, all of y'all. I see that in all of y'all.
Yeah.
You know, that you're really trying to say, okay, what can I do here? How can I help?
Yeah. I think, you know, here in this journey, hearing from God, you know, we reference boot camp again. We unpack a solid message over the course of 72 hours. And it's one solid message delivered in different times. But really in the core of it, it's hearing from God. Mm-hmm. This is the voice. We don't have a hearing problem. We have listening problems. We hear the lies, you named them. I'm not good enough to be accepted. And, you know, it's not even our own thinking. But really discerning. You mentioned discernment. Mm-hmm. When you came out of camp, you know, I remember when we first met, we got introduced to each other by Brent. And he said, hey, this is Colby. You know Colby. And you said, yeah, I know you. So I don't know you. And I didn't mean it rude, but you know now what I meant is I don't know you because you don't know you. Yeah. You've never let anybody know you.
No doubt.
I know I know the poser because I was that guy too. But there's a you nobody's got a chance to even get to know. And once you realize who you are, real relationships happen. You begin to realize these ones you had that you're pruning, they weren't real in the first place. They were all counterfeit because you were counterfeit. So it's total ownership.
Yep.
But I've been thankful on the other side to get to know the actual Colby and see you get to learn that. Talk into that a little bit.
Before that, you remember what I asked you when you went to boot camp and you left late that
You
last
asked
thing?
me if this was real, and you wanted.
If I wanted to know if you was the real, is it going to be real for you?
Yeah.
Or are you going to just make it up as you go?
Yeah.
And that was profound, Coach, for me to look you in the eyes and hear you say that, because I knew that answer needed to be yes. But for the first time, I needed to look somebody in the eyes and carry that out. And that was difficult. And quite honestly, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of the listeners that listen to this, Byron, you just talked about walking away from some friendships. I think as Coach was talking about you being a leader, I think one of the greatest parts of your testimony is that you walked away from some friendships that have now come full circle.
Yeah.
And now those friendships are thriving. And I think sometimes we believe that when we walk away, we're losing this or losing that.
Yeah, the enemy wants to tell you all that stuff.
Yeah, and the enemy never puts these huge chains on us. What he does is just let us create these link by link by link things that we think are small things that turn into these massive chains of burden that we don't think that we can break from. And you took that step. I took that step. Coach took that step. Zach took that step. That is a terrifying thing to do. But when you are able to, I guess I think about all the time, how do you save men from ever, and women from getting to the point of having to hit rock bottom so that they can realize that, so they don't go through some of the things that we went through.
Yeah.
And I still don't. I'm still chasing that answer.
Yeah, you want to save people from the burden, but sometimes you got to allow people to fail.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in order to find yourself, you sort of have to lose yourself.
Yep.
And so
I think when I was walking through my journey, what we were just talking about is just the importance of community. When I stepped out of that, it was full blown. I realized I cannot do this by myself. And then you get to a point where you feel like you've progressed, and then you have to stare face to face with all the harm that you've caused in the past. And you want people to believe that you've stepped into this new life, but you still have the things in your life that you have to prove to people that this is who I am. And what I realized just from my church upbringing and background, I never realized the true feeling of a relationship with the Holy Spirit and understanding that that's a day-to-day walk. Coach, you call Jesus your best friend.
Yeah.
And I love that, and I hang on to that. And I think about that often, because that's truly who he has to be. He has to be your best friend in ways that you never grow tired of going to him, and he expects that of us, just to go to him and go to him and go to him. I think I always viewed that as a burden, in the same way that I was scared to death to reach out to people.
Sure.
I didn't want to burden people with my mistakes. I was embarrassed by it, but I also didn't want to burden other people by what were you thinking.
Sure.
And in that community and the things that we've walked through with Life Group and the way Coach checks on us all the time, you just realize this is the way people love each other like Jesus expects us to.
Yeah.
People want us to bring these to them so they can help us walk through them. And when you've been through it, then you have a responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's been the most enjoyable part, just eagerly seeking out opportunities to do that. And I know you've taught us a lot of lessons on that, Coach. So.
I don't want the listeners to think, because I'm here, I'm one of those guys that Jesus to me was a storybook character. That's who he was. He's Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. He could do a lot of things, but that was just a character. I had no idea that he was real until I met him when he is real. I tell people, he says he's with you always. Well, if that's the case, I know y'all's stories. We carried him a lot of bad places. Yeah. We did a lot of bad things. Yeah. And one of the best things is that the one who knows you best loves you most. Yeah. And, when you cross over that, you can't really believe it. You're thinking, he can't really does he know who I am? Yeah. And I can remember, asking him, okay, if you'll just come and do this, if you'll fix my alcohol problem.
Yeah.
And I was very depressed. I didn't plan on living another week. I'd already made up my mind when that was going to happen, suicidal. I'd already planned it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, if you'll show up, I'll go any place, do anything, be anybody, even be a fool for you if you want me to be.
Yeah.
And I still remember first time I ever heard him talk to me. So I'm going home because I met him face to face. Because, some of y'all know my story. The first time I ever heard anybody speak in tongues was me, and I had no clue what that was. It was something very foreign to me.
Yeah.
I was not nervous because I was very peaceful when it all happened. But I can remember driving home after that, and I was thinking, okay, I asked him, I said, okay, you think we could fix the alcohol problem? Mm-hmm. And he said, I thought you put me in charge. And I said, yeah, I did. He said, well, you got a lot bigger problems than alcohol.
Yeah.
Let me just work on them. And I think that's one thing that, we all have to learn is you just got to let him do it. You just be present, and he'll begin to work, whether it's fast, sometimes it's slow. Mm-hmm. But the good thing about it is even though we may wander off and get out in left field and we can't find home plate, we turn around and he's just followed us right. He brought home plate to us.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about, I had a question to ask of what kept you from taking this step? And I think y'all sort of already answered it. Fear.
Yeah.
You're crippled by fear, embarrassment. Do I have what it takes? And I think, too, for guys listening in to know we don't all have it figured out. Mm-mm. You just had this one thing or couple things that had to come to the light. Now that's there, but now there's this other side. I've been born again. I know who I am in Jesus. I'm a son. I'm co-heirs with Jesus. I'm in the kingdom. I'm adopted. I'm fully in the house. Well, now learning how to live that way. This is where I think the spiritual fathers really come into play is okay, now that we've gotten through that, we can't stop the pursuit of that. So who's really spiritually fathering you right now? And you may not have that. I don't know. Do you feel like you have that in this particular season?
I would not say no that I do.
Yeah. Mm-mm. And that's okay. And what I love about Byron, he's just honest.
Yeah.
But you recognize what I'm saying. Hey, probably you should come out of here. Because I know there's a lot of people listening going, I don't have that either. Well, hey, guess what? You're right here with Byron. You're just the same. What about you? You've had head down doing all sorts of stuff. I know it's been a crazy season.
Yeah, Coach would be one of those. I would say all three of you. I'm still at a stage now where I'm still figuring it. I think now would be a great time to also insert part of the fear that we have initially obviously has to do with the marriages that we were in at the time. So Brenda, Courtney, Rachel, Stacy, there's also a fear of letting loose that at the same time Jesus is working on us, he is working on our wives. And all four of us need to be very, very grateful for the wives that Jesus was working on when we were going through all of our mess.
Man.
With that experience and all of that, you three guys are still massive spiritual influences on me. Brian Bloom, guys like that who have walked through a ton of things as well. And you just find out different ways, different guys with different stories. And ultimately you figure out everybody has a different story to tell. And you're always going to sharpen your sword by hearing everybody's story in different ways, just to continue through that. But our whole men's group, it's just something that just provides so much comfort, and it's basically a way to just calibrate yourself all the time to be inserted and have somebody there to get over that fear of nobody wants to hear my story. Everybody wants to hear your story. We want to bring men to Jesus because we realize how long we did life without him, and how hard it was.
And I did it longer than all of y'all. So, that tells my age some, but I know I was 37 years old, so that tells you.
Yeah, I was 32.
And I went to church every day when I was young.
I was going to say, I was
knew
thinking
all about him, but I didn't know him.
When y'all both were talking a little bit, I was thinking about this, also fear of judgment. If I'm going to expose myself and all of a sudden people know the me, it's interesting that sometimes Christians are the most judgmental that have been in our lives. And so the enemy will use whatever. He tries to use the Bible. He tries to use the word. He uses it against Jesus. It's different with us. And so as we're navigating this, having these people in our lives, brothers, fathers, to continue to remind us who we are,
Yeah.
That's not your voice. That's the enemy's voice. This is what God says about you. You're a son. You're beloved. And on goes the thing. Like, it's not a card to say, hey, it's okay to keep sinning. You can go do whatever. No, you're actually called to be holy and to be righteous. Yeah. I mean, we're called in the image and likeness of God, the creator of it all. And so we're not talking about some band of brothers that's like, go be and do whatever it is you want to do. It's just right the opposite of that.
Yep.
And there's that accountability piece. And you guys do this. Guys come to y'all. You got a band of guys that you're not just like cracking whips, but they look to you. You're modeling. And there's some accountability that's happening. I mean, what is that doing? What are you seeing? How is that playing out in your relationships?
I would say that, as far as guys that are around me, I would think that, it's just my built-in team that is right there at the store, at the shed. And we've got a lot of young guys there. Mm-hmm. We've got college guys, we've got high school kids, and man, it is
brings a responsibility.
Yes. Those guys are they're looking for something.
Starving.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's been so good is having, other team members like Will has been instrumental in getting those guys to start, reading the word a little bit and, going to church and really introducing all this to them. And, these guys are doing great. So,
yeah, it's so cool to see and to somewhat feel like you're a part of, because this really is a family. Mm-hmm. I mean, you literally have family and there's all these connections.
Oh, yeah.
And,
but I need to add one other
thing.
Go ahead. I wouldn't say I had a spiritual dad, but as I'm going through life, I heard you say something, they're looking for something. I can remember I was looking where life will just push you so hard, knock you down so many times. You feel so bad about it. And you look at these people and you think, man, they have a peace about them. They have a joy about them, a confidence about them. They don't seem to be worried about so much. And there were 4 or 5 guys that they wouldn't even know this. They're all passed away now, that I'm thinking, man, I'd kind of like to have what he's got. I mean, my life is so screwed up.
Yeah.
How do I get that?
Yeah.
And I think for us, if we can show that, it's going to draw people, because it's like a magnet. We're in a hurting and dying world. And when they can see somebody that might have an answer, regardless, they might not even know. And then you can tell them, maybe they know it's Jesus. Or they think, I wonder if it's this Jesus guy.
Yeah.
But they're hungry. They're looking for that. They're looking for a peace and a confidence and a hope and a joy because life is hard.
Yeah, it is. And y'all aren't going to believe this, but it's been 30 minutes. Time flies when you're having fun, huh?
Yeah.
Part 2.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I'm going to ask y'all a quick question. You got 3 seconds to answer it. Are you ready?
Yep.
If you could take your wife anywhere, all expense paid, there was no strings attached, where are you taking her? You're leaving tomorrow. You got 12 hours to pack. Where are you going? Too long. You're out.
I just got back from Mexico, so we're
You're
going
back
to Israel.
Okay. You got one more shot. You've been to many places, man.
Know.
You don't know. Coach, where are you going?
Gonna go see grandkids that we don't normally get to see.
Okay,
that's where
good.
she'd like
That's
to
the
go.
right answer. Yeah. Okay. What are you reading right now?
I am reading John Eldredge.
Okay.
Oh gosh, I just went blank.
There's 100 of them.
Yeah. Oh man,
Is it
what
the new one, Resilient?
No, it's an old one. Our group's reading it.
Wild at Heart.
Nope.
Waking the Dead.
No.
Jesus Outlaw.
Outlaw.
Nailed it. You're up.
Yeah.
Beautiful Outlaw.
Beautiful Outlaw.
Sorry.
I'm going through some Bible studies right now. I'm not really
Good.
reading any book, but I have been tapping into Chris's guy from Colorado.
Restoration Project. We talked about that.
Reading
In
through
one of
some
those.
of that stuff.
Good. All right. Well, I had to put you on the spot. That's what good brothers do. So, all right. Hey, listen. If any of this is encouraging, or there's so much we could talk. This group right here really could talk for days.
Yeah.
I think the takeaway is, hey, you're not alone. And so if you
Amen.
need to connect into this in any
Amen.
kind of way, we've got an online campus with Pastor Sarah. She's incredible, and we want to be able to meet you. Jesus wants to meet you right where you're at. We're all in different stages in the journey, but you're not doing it all by yourself. And so, God bless you guys. Thanks for dialing in. Appreciate y'all. Love you guys.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you,
us.
Zach.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode and feel encouraged. If you're struggling to find the right huddle, a community of like-minded friends who you can be real with, or you want more information about the links and resources mentioned today, take a look at the description below this video. Like Zach mentioned, we live stream our weekend services every Sunday, so join us for church online right here on YouTube. Plus, stay tuned for our last episode of this mini-series, which will drop next week. Thanks so much for watching this special edition of the Beyond Sundays podcast. We hope you have an amazing day. And remember, God is always moving, and He's moving in your life too, beyond Sundays.